Hey there, everybody. Welcome back with the Plapper. Platypus is the name. And today we're going to go over count them, five. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 monsters that I think you should be using in the early game that I think are going to be good. Now, these are going to be things that are all accessible. 5 of them are, to be fair, are accessible very early. And I think by the Circle of Indulgence is the latest one that I have in this beginning part, and then for the other one will be a little bit later at the Circle of Fortitude, but everything else will be Circle of Indulgence or sooner. So these are 5 monsters I think you should fuse, and I'm going to explain why I think you should fuse them, and I think that they will all be very strong in the early game, depending on what your party needs. So first, we're going to go with the boring one, the one that I talked about in yesterday's video. Today, I don't remember when I recorded and when it's going live. All right. You get to when I'm working all these hours, I gotta do what I can when I can. All right, so we're gonna not specify. So the very first one, boring Drake slime. And now I only say it's boring because I already talked about it yesterday, which is why I want to get it out of the way. But this one's very easy to make. You can make this in the first zone, no problem. Vengadorgia and slime. Right, you make a Drake slime. It's a pretty darn good unit. It's got good agility. It's got good MP. It's got shallow breather, which goes into deep breather, which I think is a pretty good innate talent for kind of farming the early game. Now, this is the second boring one. That's right, Plat's got 2 boring ones, but the rest are going to be interesting, I promise. The next one is actually not a synthesize. A monster that I think is actually kind of fucking nuts in the early game is Draki. This thing has got agility. This thing has got 3, 4, 5 stars of agility. And again, what's important is that it already starts with Zam Aficionado. But it gets, if you max this out, you get the next level of it. And then about halfway through that, I think you get Black Breath, which is a breath attack that doesn't care that he has no attack, that doesn't care that he has low wisdom, right? And to be fair, he has really low HP. So this is an early game farming overpower the first like 5, 6 circles kind of thing. But he is fast, very, very fast. And with good breath attacks, he's easily going to basically do what Dragon Slime does. But I think Dragon Slime has got more flexibility in terms of what he can do. Whereas this is kind of a one-trick pony, but very, very nuts in the early game. Absolutely insane. And to be fair, he does have Big Bully if you ever get him up to level 40. So he'll do more damage to large-sized monsters. So it gives him a chance to, you can go back and kind of farm the bigger monsters. Although the late game large monsters, you're going to have to put a lot of work into it. But dark elemental attacks, this will also increase the potency of the breath. I'm pretty confident because it's a dark elemental attack, even though it isn't a spell or a normal attack. It's a breath attack, but it is dark element, and it should make it easier. So I think Draki is actually like a 10 out of 10 early game thing. But now, let's get to the good stuff, the last good ones here. So the one I was actually looking at, Stringfella, but I decided I didn't like him as much as I thought I would for a reason that I'm going to explain, because the guy right next to him, Candy Cat, is I just think a little bit better. Candy Cat, I think, is a great early game thing. Now, if you look at its stats, it's not very good, right? It's a rank G, and it doesn't have very good stats. So why do I like it? 2 main reasons. One, I like Enfeebler quite a bit. So if you level up Enfeebler, which is pretty easy to do, right? You could lower all the stats of enemies, right? Greatly decrease the agility of an enemy, greatly decrease the defense of an enemy. These aren't insane, but they're okay. Blunt is probably the best one, lowering the attack or the wisdom to keep your guys alive. And then you kind of get like AoE versions of them. Like, these are all good, these are fine, but what I like is tongue bashing. Now, a couple abilities, what are they called? Talents? Traits? Talents. A couple talents have this. So you could find this in a different talent that you think is better, but tongue bashing is basically what we want here. Savagely slather a single enemy with slimy saliva, stunning it and reducing its defense attribute to 1. Not by 1, to 1. So whatever its defense is, it goes all the way down and it stuns the enemy. This is so good. But why did I pick this unit out of all the other ones that could potentially learn this? Well, this person at level 1 learns Ultra Crafty Stunner, which makes it much easier to stun the enemy. So that is very, very synergistic. And this is basically what it's going to be. It's going to help you farm those large monsters early. You're going to be able to stun it, send its defense to 1, and now you're suddenly able to hit it with as much damage as you can manage. And then it does have some other good stuff too. Like it gets better later, but I think this is like an ultimate control large monster thing for like super bosses or really difficult large monsters. I think this thing is going to be crazy, but it has to land the stun, but it has a built-in way to make it better than nearly every other unit with very little effort. And tongue bashing, I think, is one of the better ways to do it because it stuns and it reduces the defense. So now your other damage dealers can actually absolutely slap. So how do you make this unit actually though, which is important? This is a Great Saber Cub and a Fromage Frais. So Great Saber Cub can be made by combining a Wing Slime and a Fleloflal. I'll just show you the pictures, all right? I don't know how these things work. Let me find the Great Saber Boy. Everyone squint. It makes it easier. Here he is. It's this guy. But so you combine a Wing Slime. Let's see if I can find it in here actually. These two right here. These are both in the very first zone, right? You can find Wing Slimes in the very first zone. You can find Feral Balls in the very first zone, so you can get a Great Saber Cub early on. Very, very easy. And then in order to get the other one, the Fromage Frais, I actually don't think you could craft that one or synthesize it, whatever. That is the reason why this monster has to wait until you get at least to the Circle of Indulgence, because that's one of the monsters that's just floating around in there, and you just go there, you grab it, no problem, in the dungeon, and then you are on your way to a Candy Cat. So next monster, 2 more left. So I think that is 5. I think I was wrong about the 6. I think I double counted Candy Cat for some reason. So what did I do? Reverse search. Give me all the stuff. Give me all the stuff. This one is really good, and it's actually, you can get this one pretty darn easily. You can get this by the 2nd or 3rd zone here. And so this is like a super early game monster as well. And that is Spitzfire. It's by a Pterodon and a Foo Dog. And so why do I like this monster? Couple reasons. One, it does have 3 attack, which is pretty nice. It also has one of my favorite traits where it ensures enemies cannot avoid attacks, right? So this is going to be good against pretty much anything. With Metal Slimes, I think it still doesn't inherently make it insanely powerful, because I don't know how much of it is you dodging and just hitting them from 0. But if they have a high dodge and now use an ability that guarantees that you could deal damage, now they're not going to avoid those attacks. Attacks always going to hit. Then once you get to level 20, it actually does have the ability to survive at 1 HP. And level 20 is not that high. You'll get that a little bit later. And if you keep this guy around, that is a very powerful attack, right? You're never going to get one shot. And it doesn't, in fact, it's not like Endure. It's better than Endure for Pokemon, because if you're at 2 HP, it would survive. Allows the monster to survive at 1 HP after suffering an attack that would otherwise kill it. I don't know if this lasts only 1 time. I don't know how many times this actually works. I'm assuming worst case scenario, it doesn't matter what your HP is at. It doesn't say you have to be at max HP, but it only procs 1 time in a fight. If it procs more than 1 time, it's broken, because you could have the action that heals you after every single time you take an action, so you can just attack while doing that. I assume that's not how it works, because it would be too powerful. But very, very, very good. And then he actually has Dragonheart, which is pretty good, but I would kind of work on getting some sort of multi-attack thing with low accuracy, because I think that the dodge denier would actually make them so they all land. Like if you do something like, attacks 4 times with a low chance to hit, it's like, boom, got it. As far as something like Hatchet Man, I don't know. I think it might. I don't think it'll work with Hatchet Man, because it's like more of a binary thing. They're not dodging, you're missing, if that makes sense. But I do think it's worth trying. I think Dodge Denier is insanely good, and I honestly just see more experimentation with it. But I love that, combined with the fact the last legs, combined with Dragonheart being pretty good, right, with auto restore, just like I said. Then he just also has pretty decent stats. 3-star stats for a rank F is not that bad. It's probably about the higher end you're going to get, but he has really, really low HP. So you are going to have to be aware of that. But how do you actually make him? Did I talk about it yet? So Foo Dog, you can get him in the 2nd zone in wintertime. You know, it's like when I say the 2nd zone, it's the circle of everything's on fire all the time. So it's like let me just look at what it's called.
Come again.
So if you come here in the wintertime, the Circle of Temper, you'll be able to find him kind of all around, but mostly in the northern areas. He'll be walking around and you could just pick him up, no problem. And for the Foo Dog, sorry, that's the Foo Dog. For the Pterodon, that's actually very, very easy. You could take your Draki from the first zone, and you could take one of those the same thing that you use to make the Drake slime. I always forget what it's called. It's called the Veg and Dragonora. You know that one. You can take that with a Draki. That'll make you the bird that you need. Then you combine that with a food dog, and you'll get the Spitzfire. Where's that guy at? He should be pretty low. He's over here somewhere, right? Here we go. This guy. I actually like this guy. He's using all because I guess maybe it's because he's a dragon, but he's using a lot of really good early game recipes, I feel like. So finally, the one that I think is not quite as early game, but it's still early game. It's still in the lower circle, but it's simply a hunter mech. And this one is very easy to make. Hunter mech is incredibly good and incredibly easy to make. So why is it very good? It has 3 attack, which is again reasonable, but it is still rank F. It has 3 defense, 3 attack. Not the greatest agility. Low HP, low MP, low wisdom. Who cares? Blade Maven is reasonable. It's not great, but it kind of gives them a little bit of, right? Like, all right, he could do ice damage, wind damage, fire damage, lightning damage, Hatchet Man, and he could heal himself. The attack has a high likelihood of missing, but an increase. I'm gonna try this out with the dodge ability. See if this hits every time. There's no way it does, but if it does, oh my god, it's busted. So in an AoE attack, this isn't like insane, but you could always get a better talent. It's like an okay talent for sure. But Tactical Trooper, baby, sometimes performs 2 actions in a row. The number of actions is not affected if you don't issue specific orders. So, it sounds like it's worded in a weird way. It does slightly lower his attributes, which is a negative, but who cares, man? 2 actions in a row on a small guy. That means if you had 4 of these guys, you could potentially take 8 actions. Now that's not gonna probably happen. It's probably a low chance to get 2 actions. But if you're just auto battling, I think it's saying if you order a specific action, sometimes they'll still take a second action that you don't order. Basically, they'll take a random action as if they were on auto battle. That's what I think. But also, then he learns Metal Beater as well. Inflicts additional damage on enemies, period. Then a higher level increases the effect, and it works on enemies with the metal skin trait. So you always deal more damage. The higher your level gets, the more damage you're going to deal, and it works on metal skin. And Static Discharge sometimes paralyzes enemies that inflict direct attacks on the monster when the monster is paralyzed itself. This is kind of bad, but it's okay. I mean, maybe it's not terrible. Maybe there's a way to make this good, but this one is less obvious to me why it's good. It's mostly these 2 are insane. And his stats aren't incredible, but you got to think of him probably being as like 25% higher almost because of, I'm guessing it's like a 1 in 4 to take 2 actions, something like that. Now, if it's a 1% to take 2 actions, let's be honest, it's not good, but there's no way it's that low. I've seen it trigger like on enemies that I fought multiple times. So it's got to be something pretty regular. And so this is actually, funnily enough, this is probably one of those monsters you don't want to make large because I don't think it'll stack, right? You don't have sometimes take 2 actions and then sometimes take 2 to 3 actions. You're not going to get 5 actions, right? So this is probably a monster that's actually way better small than most other monsters in the game. Anything with Tactical Trooper. But yeah, how do we make it? Did I forget to tell you how to make it? Restless Armor and pretty much anything, man. Like Restless Armor and like these material things, right? Even a Lampling. Lampling is very easy to get. The Fromage Frais, the food dogs. Like I actually haven't found a rock bomb myself. You can tell that some of these are things that enemies have had. But like most of these things are gonna be totally Hell Nino. That's funny. There's so many monsters. There's like 360, man. It's crazy. It's just a great. You basically just have to get Restless Armor. Restless Armor can be gotten in the area that I'm in right now, the Circle of Fortitude, and it'll be outside the Watch Tower. So you just get one of those, and then you shouldn't have too many problems. And that is still like, this is slightly what I would consider out of the early game, which is I put this like more of, not, maybe you're kind of getting into the mid game now, I suppose. Everything else I'd consider early game, and I would probably put a priority list on like something like a Drake Slime and a Spitzfire. I think Candy Cat is going to serve you pretty well if you get hard stuck on an individual boss, or you really want to kill these large monsters and you are just having trouble. Being able to stun them at a high probability and lower their defense to 1 will help you bypass their really high stats. But yeah, that's kind of it. These are the monsters that I think you should consider trying out in the early parts of the game. And if you agree, disagree, let me know. And tell me what monsters you think I should have put on this list. Is there anything on here that you're like, you overlooked this thing? This thing is insane. It's an early game powerhouse and it scales into the late game. Yada, 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 blah, blah. Anyway, let me know. That has been all for the plat today. For Platypus is per Platypus. Flip-flops, I'll see you next time. Bye. 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 All right, end the video quick.